The views, comments, and opinions of the following program do not necessarily reflect those of Morris Media Studios, MorrisMediaLive.com, or its affiliates. Listener discretion is advised.
Coming at you all the way live. Welcome to Melanated Politics. Straight out of Compton, I'm your host, Eric Clark. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We appreciate that. Peace and blessings to the original Melanated people. Back in the house again, my brother, Aleem. Welcome back, my brother.
Hey, welcome. Hi. Hey, everybody. How y'all doing? Just glad to be back with you, man, doing your thing.
Absolutely.
You know? Yes.
Welcome back. Yes, sir. Let's go ahead and peel the scab off. President Trump is slimy as some okra.
Oh, good Lord.
And the Republican Party have separated themselves from reality. Will you go down with the ship that's sailing off into the depths of the wrong side of history? Children of the congregation, have mercy.
Come on with it.
Did President Obama, Aleem, did he do enough for black people? We're going to answer that question individually, but did President Obama do enough for black people? Go ahead and call in at 323-293-3375. Tell us what you think. And also, one of the other topics that's on the menu, we have to do something that is very important. We are going to call out ourselves. Black-on-black violence and gang violence has to stop.
That's my topic right there.
Cease fire.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It ends today.
Yes, sir.
Okay?
Let's talk about it.
Stop sleeping with our eyes open.
Ooh.
But first, as we always do around this place and around this time, let's find out what actually happened this week in Black history. Now, because of November 10th, 1998, in North Carolina, thousands of white supremacists overthrew a democratically elected government by means of violence. Take a look, y'all.
The day after the election, at a gathering for white men in Wilmington, the Democrats unveiled a document called the White Declaration of Independence. It contained an ultimatum. Cynthia Brown, whose descendants were in Wilmington back in 1898, is a historian at her church where there's a preserved copy of the Declaration from the next day's newspaper.
We will no longer be ruled and will never again be ruled by men of African origin.
They would strip black men of voting rights. They would give white men a large part of the employment heretofore given to black men. And as for Alex Manly, we demand that he leave this city forever within 24 hours. The next morning, hundreds of white men marched to the offices of the Daily Record. Manly was gone. He had fled to save his own life. They set the Daily Record building on fire. This is where it once stood.
Once the white leadership destroyed Alex Manly's printing press, they destroyed one way in which the African American community in Wilmington could organize itself and keep itself informed.
At City Hall, the mayor and board of aldermen were forced out.
There's 200 armed men in City Hall at the time. They didn't do it of their own free will. And as they resigned, a new member selected by the Democratic Party was voted into office.
Waddell, who once threatened to fill the Cape Fear River with black bodies, was the new mayor of Wilmington. Meanwhile, the mob had grown to about 2,000 men, and the violence spilled into the streets. In these photos, X's mark where the first black residents were killed.
The stories are that they were dumped into the river, and there are varying stories about how many people were killed.
I see 40 to 60 clearly as fatalities as a result of the violence, but I think it was higher.
Many black residents hid for days in the swamps and the wooded cemeteries in the city, including Cynthia's great-grandmother. And thousands of other residents fled Wilmington, never to return. Shortly afterward, Democrats printed booklets celebrating a glorious victory, and in the newspapers depicted black residents as the instigators.
This image is a gross misrepresentation of what actually happened during 1898. You know, what you see is African American men with guns, not white men with machine guns.
We travel through time to make a spiritual connections with our ancestors, brother. Also, let me just add some context to the last video we just saw. You know, back then, Brother Aleem, it was the same old psychological tactics that they put out there. You know, the blacks are taking over. And us good old white folk, we got to protect our children and our women from those black savages. That was in the newspaper. That was literally the platform in which the Republicans, which have, you know, obviously switched what the Republicans are now. But anyway, that was their platform. And one thing that the video did not mention, which is so important that we go ahead and mention, is there was a lady named Rebecca Felton, okay? She was a famous Georgia writer. She was a white supremacist. And she had a famous quote that was actually in the paper back then. Her name is Rebecca Felton, and I quote, "If it takes lynching a man a day to protect white womanhood, I say lynch." Now, one thing that we saw in the video, the brother, Alexander Manley, who owned the newspaper, the Daily Record, he responded. And just to paraphrase his response, he was basically saying, listen, we not out here raping no white women. That's a stereotype. If anything, they are offering sex via participation to us. Those white folks went crazy, Eileen. They went crazy. Because back then, that's something that a black man that owns a newspaper, that's something that you are not supposed to say. And as we saw in the video, there would be consequences. Now, before we go deep off into it, one of my favorites, Bishop William Barber, he can explain it way better than I can. He was actually on Democracy Now! He's from North Carolina. He's on the map. He's plays a very intricate part of getting black folks in North Carolina to the voting polls. He's standing up. He gave a speech at the Democratic National Committee that will make you shed more tears than you ever thought you ever would in your life. But he knows more about the 1898 democratically elected takeover of the government, which included black folks. Let's William Barber, break it down for Melanated Politics, please.
To recodify and institute fully white supremacy, white nationalism into the laws. And so Wilmington was a powerful city. It was 50% African American. The wealthiest man in North Carolina was an African American in Wilmington, and it was the closest port to Africa and Europe. And Wilmington would have ended up being Atlanta, that kind of city. And it was targeted. If we can shut it down. And so white supremacists got together, newspaper, politicians, ran a campaign, and on November the 10th, they brought a Gatling gun into Wilmington. They burned down the black newspaper that was led by the mulatto son. He was a white governor, he had a black mama, burned it down, and they went on a killing spree. And it was endorsed by churches. some preachers stood in their pulpits and said, if we have to fill the Cape Fear River with the blood of the, I won't say the word, then let it be so that we can return the government to its right ownership of the white man.
They not only ran the African-American elected officials out of town, they, as I recall, they installed a former Confederate officer as the new mayor in the coup that they organized.
They organized the coup because the goal was they had already begun to take over the legislature to some degree by re-entering Jim Crow laws and voting. But after that riot, they sent telegraphs all over the country. This riot predates the Springfield riots, saying this is how you return power. And by 1902, the last congressperson, black congressperson, was from North Carolina. His name was George White. He was put out of the United States Congress, and it took 90 years. Now, here's one of the curious things about this, Amy. It took 90 years for North Carolina to have another black person in the United States Congress. Voting went to almost zero in the black community. And what people don't know is that there was so much fear, right, around what had happened that it just froze. So all of the progress of Reconstruction was turned back. And it was tied to this massacre.
And Josephus Daniels became...
Bishop William Barber gave that famous speech at the Democratic National Convention. Great man, stands up 10 feet tall for the community. What are your thoughts on the two of the videos and everything you just saw, my brother?
Well, first of all, with the name of God, most gracious, most merciful, to watch those videos and see what was going on in 1898, and this was also on this day.
On this day, November 10th.
November 10th. Wow. So this is your thing about today in Black history. I like that. So you look at what was going on then. This is where the word entitlement comes into play, that on some whites, because one thing that we do want to get start doing and taking in, and that is all white people ain't bad. I have a lot of white people that helped in the progress of blacks, African American, however you want to put it. They had a lot of whites that helped and stood up. But the ugly part of it stands out. As you see, they destroyed a whole Wilmington, a whole city, to take it over to make sure that they continue to manipulate the minds of black people. And one in the manipulation was control with fear. Because looking at that clip right there, where white men came with a Gatling gun, and that's a machine gun that you see that they just gun people down, and then go around and just shooting people. Okay? Now, that's fear. That's fear when we look at that. So they always put fear, controlled by fear. And in today, in some of their movies, because they want to make sure the bad ones, if you want to say, in the movies you would see that they show us movies such as 12 Years a Slave or those slave type movies to show you what they did to black people at that time, to kind of like a message to say, don't forget, stay in your place. But we've never stayed in our place. And today we are seeing what they did. And then one other thing before I stop talking about this here, it's amazing that, not amazing, but they hid so much from us.
Yes, sir.
That is coming out today. Like what that brother is talking about.
Yes, sir.
Because they show us the negative. They show us slaves, like that picture of them blacks with guns, and they show us pictures of slaves always in the in a submissive state. Yeah. the overalls and the this and the that.
Yeah.
They never tell you about
those
someone that
had
businesses.
Yes.
So obvious, every black person that either came from Africa or something, or some was here already or something, there was a lot of black people that had businesses. Free. They were called free Negroes or free slaves.
Yes,
I don't know
sir.
how that works, a free slave.
Yeah,
but they still had the title. But anyway, it's amazing.
One of the unfortunate situations is about that entire situation regarding North Carolina is the people that overthrew that democratically elected government. They have schools named after them. They have towns and monuments and things of that nature named after them.
And we're not spoke of.
And I don't know the street off the top of my head, but there was a particular location that was dedicated to that event.
Right.
So. And
their atrocities, their cruelties are uplifted, like the lady said. In that, if we're threatened, I don't care. Lynch him.
Well, yeah.
And that's just.
Well, what I would like our viewers to do is, I would like everyone to pull out like an ink pen and maybe a piece of paper, something you can write on, because if we don't study and learn from history, we are literally signing up to repeat it.
That's true. That's true. That's the saying. It's Malcolm said it. I believe it was Malcolm that said, the man that don't know time, like know what time it is, carrying a watch or whatever, is a man that's lost in time.
And also peace to all my brothers and sisters that are watching Melanated Politics from Africa, from the Caribbean, everyone that's been with us from day one.
Give them the number.
And we called in live, 323-293-3375.
Yes.
Call in. Let us know how you really feel.
Okay.
Now, before we move on, this week, today in Black History, it's also very important that we give some props out to Garrett Morgan. Okay? Around November 10th, Garrett Morgan, a black man in the United States of America, invented the traffic light. Okay?
Wow.
Garrett Morgan.
Okay.
Also, Garrett Morgan was responsible for inventing the gas mask. And we got to move on, but just to touch on a little bit about his gas mask, initially, when he patented and everything got to flowing, I'm not using the gas mask by this brother. Let me see the gas mask. So, also today, this week in Black History, Garrett Morgan invented the traffic light in the traffic lights in the United States of America, and he's also had a patent on the gas mask that saved so many lives. So, shout out, peace to the memory and the success and the accomplishments of our dear brother, Garrett Morgan.
Garrett Morgan.
And this is what happened today and this week in Black History.
Lock him up! Lock him up! Lock him up! Lock him up!
Well, I think he came to Atlanta to draw some attention. Atlanta is a preeminent city for civil rights. It has been done so. This is the birthplace of Dr. King. This is the birthplace of the lunch counter movement. This is why he's here. It's just another three-ring circus to bring attention to him.
Impeach and remove! Impeach and remove! Impeach and remove!
President Trump is here. I'm disgusted with his behavior, with his selling out to Russia on everything, trying to get Russia involved in our election again, and Ukraine. He's a coward for not trying to win in the normal legal way, and I hate almost everything he's done.
We're here to
protests, the divisive policies that Donald Trump has taken against African Americans, the broken promises, and just the vitriol that has exploded under his administration. So we're sending a message in the birthplace of civil rights that those policies aren't welcome here. And if you really want to have a real engaging conversation with African Americans, reach out to the NAACP. We have an agenda that we would be willing to present to you in public if you really want to engage with black people.
Remove, impeach, and remove.
Donald Trump was in Atlanta, Georgia, trying to court the black vote. And there you just saw protesters in response to Donald Trump showing up to court the black vote. Wow. We saw the response. We saw the protesters. So here it is. Yeah. Here it is. That snake in the grass.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Y'all.
President Donald John Trump was in Atlanta, Georgia. One of the that snake in the grass. Donald Trump was in Atlanta, Georgia. We just saw the protesters. Right. Clap at home for the protesters, even though I can't see you. Clap for the protesters. Clap for the protesters.
For the protesters. People are standing up.
What do you think about Donald Trump going to Atlanta trying to court the black vote out there?
Well, he's on a mission that he's not going to accomplish, because, we do have some blacks that support Donald Trump. I mean, it's millions of us, and he has about 200 maybe that supports him. But the bottom line is with that, Trump has nothing coming with us.
Yes.
For as we saw on the clip, we saw a lot of. I'm tired of saying white people, but you see a lot of
It is
people,
what it is. It is what it is.
But a lot of white people are very, very upset with this dude. And when he first got in office, they had a little riot. White people had a riot. They, as a lot of comedians said, very disappointed, y'all. Y'all didn't tear up nothing. They threw paper cups and stuff. But anyway, they had a riot. I told a lot of people back in the day about when Trump became president that usually protesters it'd be a lot of pepper and a little salt.
Yeah.
It'd be a lot of pepper fighting back with a little salt involved. In this administration, this time around, it's a lot of salt.
Yes.
With a sprinkle of pepper. A lot of salt because the white people are disappointed. So him trying to get the black vote in Atlanta, we could talk about it, cut it up, and say all kind of good things about it.
Yes,
it's just something that's not going to happen.
Exactly. Now, also, is it a distraction? Because see, right now in Washington D.C. on Capitol Hill, Donald Trump he's in trouble like a snitch at a gangster party.
Oh, my goodness. And that's trouble. Believe me, I used to be in that game.
Now, this is the thing. This is the thing. Will Donald Trump be impeached? No. Will the Republicans in the Senate, will they remain loyal to the president? Yes.
Yes.
Now check this out.
I agree with you.
If that snake in the grass, Donald Trump, if Donald Trump went on television and told his followers, his supporters, that there is cheese on the moon, Fox News will start passing out the crackers.
Yes, very true. He has a following. That's the one thing that in today's time that you have to be successful at whatever you're doing. And it's the entertainment business. It's just the media. The media. As you saw the media in that first clip, the media was the one that swayed the mind of the people. Yeah. So with him having the following and the people, but this time around, I'm telling you, as you see the stern, angry white people that, like that lady said, yes, I hate everything that he's done.
And you know what, too, Eileen? Shout out to my homeboy, my brother Al Toomer. One thing that we talked about on Toomerstown, you can check that out on Wednesdays right here at Morris Media. One thing when I was on Toomerstown, where we both mentioned and both agree with, you know what? No one can perform without an audience. Right. So a lot of times we talk about Donald Trump without talking about the symptoms that was already brewing in American culture prior to Donald Trump. He's a manipulator. He's a con man. If he was on the bus back in the day, he'd be out here playing 3-card Molly. Have mercy. Wow. Have mercy. So it's not just about Donald Trump. We highlight Donald Trump on Melanated Politics because he represents a movement of America that understands and sees and is paying attention to the statistics that this country is becoming more browner for various reasons. Okay, fertility, immigration, just a lot of white women are not producing children like they used to. I mean, black folk, white folk, our grandparents, but they had 5, 10, 15 kids apiece back in the day. That's not happening anymore. So this is like the Indian killer, General Custer. It's like their last, hurrah. And one thing we talk about as far as politics is being described as war without bloodshed, but politics is also about power.
Yeah.
A lot of Republicans, they don't like Donald Trump, but if they pick a Democrat, if they do not support Donald Trump, they lose the power.
Right. Very much true. Very much true. And in the saying, those that support, the Republicans are going to stand strong towards their party. They have a few that go against some policies of Donald Trump. But when it comes down to it, a Republican is a Republican.
Yes, sir.
When it comes down to it. I would say right now, I say it, but one of the decent Republicans, he passed, and that was John McCain.
Yes.
He was a decent Republican. And I'm sure they have them there.
Well,
but however,
yes.
People are loyal to their party.
Yeah, and it's worth mentioning that when former senator of Arizona, John McCain, he was at a rally when he was going up against President Obama.
Right.
And a white lady,
yes.
she spelled out,
that's what I
think President Obama is a Muslim.
Right, he said
and just to paraphrase, he said,
exactly.
No, he's not. He's a good man. He loves his family, the country like I do. Go ahead.
Yes, and then that's it. And you saw in Trump said, I don't have to defend him. So right there, we knew what we were up against. And for those that are like you, the question is about being impeached or this and that. As long as they control the Senate, okay?
With Moscow Mitch.
Yes. As long as they control the Senate, the impeachment is going nowhere.
Nowhere.
It's not going anywhere in the Senate. But however, with the impeachment, at least it's appeasing the people that the Democrats are doing something. Okay. The main focus is to beat Donald Trump.
Yes.
We cannot be distracted with these type of things that he do, going after the black vote, doing this. But I think it would say we got a caller.
Well, let's go ahead and take the call. We have a caller calling. Let's see how the caller feels about it. Thank you for calling in. Welcome to Melanated Politics.
Thank you. Thank you for being on. I'm glad to see you on the air today. I had to ask you, though. I'm glad you brought the conversation back to impeachment, because a few minutes ago you said you didn't think he was going to get impeached, and that's why I had to dial in. I need to know why, because if we're talking about, even if just the Democrats vote for the impeachment, he might not get removed from office. But my real question is, are you guys going to be watching the hearings starting on Wednesday, and do you think they are going to make a mark among the populace?
We're going to be,
particularly among the Republicans. That's my question. Thank you guys.
Yes, the hearings will have a definite impact on the Republicans, whether it be positive or negative. That is yet to be seen. So that's it. It's yet to be seen whether it has a positive or negative effect on them. Now, regarding the impeachment of Donald John Trump, with respect to the political process in the United States, obviously Nancy Pelosi, the House leader from San Francisco, is the majority leader. They will vote to impeach Donald Trump.
Yes.
As my dear brother Aleem just stated, with Moscow Mitch
McConnell, he's talking about
of Kentucky, who turned down Obamacare, one of the poor states.
Yes.
he is the same one. We're going to make President Obama one-term president.
Him.
That guy. Okay.
That guy.
So I don't believe that the Republicans, and it's not that I don't believe it, they have said they are going to support President Trump. So once it gets up to the process of the U.S. Senate, which is a trial,
yes,
they need, I believe, anywhere between 20 and 25 Republicans to vote to impeach Donald Trump in the Senate.
And there's
I can't name anyone off the top of my head. Mitt Romney, he's been back and forth like Cameo.
But he's not
as we go. You know what I'm saying? So there you have it.
But he's not going to go against his party in something of this on this scale. So it's not.
In all fairness, Kentucky just went a little bluer than it has.
Thank you for mentioning that.
Yes, well,
democratically elected governor has just been elected in the state of Kentucky, and he's a Democrat. Thank you for mentioning that.
And that's a big step. That's a big step for 2020. That right there. That's where that is going to really help. But right now, with what the impeachment is going on, it's not that we don't support the impeachment. We definitely support the impeachment and would love for it to happen.
Okay.
But what they call it, hierarchy.
Yeah,
how you go in the hierarchy of it.
And also
it's not going to pass the Senate.
And also, thanks again for calling in. Let me just go ahead and pose a question to you before you go. How far will the Republicans in the Senate, in the House, Fox News, how far will the Republicans go to prevent the impeachment of Donald Trump, regardless of the facts and the phone call with the Ukrainian president, etc.? How far will these Republicans go to protect President Trump?
I think that will be seen after the testimony this week from the people who were on the phone calls, including the boy who was born in the Ukraine but raised as American as it gets, Vindman, I think his name is.
Yes.
I think it depends on how people respond to excerpts from the book by Anonymous, that where someone's talking about just really how inept he is. I think it depends on how the Republicans are going to navigate who they know to be real Republicans, like idiotic racist like Jeff Sessions is about to get back, he's about to reapply for his old job.
And this Senate seat.
Whether or not, folks are going to look more to those old Republicans who really are about their values, or if they'll continue to hang their hat on a man who they don't like or trust. The problem is that we don't know whether or not Republicans will vote their conscience, even after the Kentucky thing. I saw something, one of the four Democratic women of color, the Indian one, I can't think of her name, but she's got such a really beautiful eyes, I can't think of her name, but she made a point that what a race like the Kentucky election goes to show is that, just waving a flag for Trump won't save you.
Again,
so you should vote your conscience.
Again.
And I guess we have to see whether or not they will.
Right.
So.
Right.
But thank you guys. Your conversation is really good and smart. I gotta thank you.
Thank you for calling in, and thank you for your support. Enjoy the remainder of the weekend. Okay.
Can I close this off? That's okay. Thank you for calling in. Great question. One thing about me with my life and what's going on, I'm 61 years old. My first time ever voting was 1980. I voted for Carter, and Reagan won that year, and we've been screwed ever since by Republicans. And for us to believe as a people that something like an impeachment is happening to Donald Trump, when in 2016 in his running, some of the most terrible things came out about this man. We hear things come out of his mouth on how he doesn't respect women, this, and that. He doesn't give up his taxes. He does things as a president, and none of them have done anything to stand against it. They find a way to support it. Fox Media is really a mind manipulator of white people.
It's state TV.
Yeah.
Like they have in Russia and North Korea.
Because things that he's done already.
Yes, sir.
They should be arrested, like they say, and lock him up. But
I'm so glad you brought that up, brother. You know why? Because Donald Trump continues the same narrative and the same talking points when he speaks to black voters. You know, the unemployment rate is at an all-time low for African Americans. You know, he always mentions that. You know what I mean? So we're going to talk about that in a little bit more depth. But right now, what we're going to do right now, we're just going to take a call real fast. And on the other side of the call, we're going to go ahead and take that snake in the grass, Donald Trump, to task about claiming he's responsible for a lower unemployment rate right now. But let's go ahead and take the call. Welcome to Melanated Politics. Thank you so much for calling in. Tell me how you really feel.
Good morning, Brother Eric.
Hey.
This is Kevin. How you doing this morning?
Hey, Professor Kevin Harris. Thank you for calling in.
Hey, the professor.
Yeah,
what's up?
To the show. I've been listening to the show, and you made some really great points as usual. Number one, like you say, Donald Trump is a manipulator that plays on the emotions of people, and he can really skillfully steer the dialogue to take attention off himself and his transgressions. But I think the thing about the impeachment hearing is it will affect his electability because he's going to scare off independent, college-educated whites.
Yes, sir.
And I think what you see in Kentucky is just a continuation of what happened in 2018 midterm elections. So I think what Democrats really need to do, and I think Nancy Pelosi will do, is just steer the course. And unlike the Russian situation that was full of speculation and unproven testimony, they have quite a bit of written testimony, quite a bit of credible witnesses, and all they need to do is just let this transpire and play out. And whether it involves and results in impeachment or not, it will be a mark on its electability. That will play into the sensible side of the electorate. And I think the thing about Republicans, the minute that they start looking at these elections like Kentucky, even when the brother got voted as mayor of Mobile, Alabama, it's kind of like a new reckoning.
Yes.
And I think once they see that their electabilities are being threatened, they'll throw Donald Trump under the bus like they never wanted to be bothered with him in the first place. So I think that is really the dynamics that Democrats just need to pay attention to and steer the course.
Yes.
Don't get caught up in the rhetoric, even embrace this tactic. Don't engage them emotionally or none of that. Just steer the course. And I think it'll work out just fine in terms of harming its electability.
Well, let me come at you like this real fast. As we all know, Donald Trump, the same talking points, the unemployment for African Americans in the United States has gone down. Does he deserve all the credit for that, or has that been a runover from the Obama administration? Please give me your political assessment with respect to that question.
Before Donald Trump even took office, the country had experienced 74 continuous months of job growth.
Talk.
Black unemployment reached single digits for the first time, I think, since the 60s or something like that. And so what you're witnessing with Donald Trump is just a continued trajectory of the Obama administration that he rhetorically takes credit for.
Absolutely.
Because if you look at him and dissect his policy initiatives, he has done nothing specifically to enable the economy or to even increase it. Matter of fact, his constituents, such as the coal miners, manufacturing, victims of this China trade war, his own constituents and supporters who wear the weird MAGA hats are being adversely affected more than anyone. So for him to take credit for any type of economy, he should look under the scenes, which he knows. But whenever you get people motivated emotionally, you can have them follow you from an illogical premise because they're so full of adrenaline and emotions they're not even thinking in terms of logical reasoning or their own self-interest. So that's what he's capitalizing on. I hate to say it in those terms, but as long as Donald Trump can portray himself as a hater of people of color, he'll have a following of some type. But then there's a sensible core that'll realize to the point that, well, maybe they need to alienate Trump because even their hatred and complicit bias is not in their self-interest. It's like the whites from rural areas who are now arguing on behalf of Obamacare.
Yes.
That's how things tend to transpire, when previously they didn't want to have nothing to do with Obamacare, or anything that was related to something generated by Democrats. So I think Trump is at an impasse where he has the loyalty of Republicans, but it's weakening to the point because his electability is looking more shallow by the day. And they got in by riding his coattails, so if the bus is not moving, you might as well get off of it and walk in another direction.
Well, brother, thank you for calling in. We have to run along now. I think before I let you go, it's also important to reiterate that, you know, they always take credit for President Obama. You know, not just President Obama. They've taken credit for the pyramids and all the statues and all that look like brothers like me and this brother right here. Just like the Olmec statues in Mexico and South America and Central America. And one last thing, you know, they never gave President Obama credit for anything. If President Obama held a press conference and said he just took a shower, Fox News would demand to see the bar of soap. So thank you for calling in, brother.
Okay, can I say one thing right quick? Today is my birthday, and I've spent time reflecting on Black progress in the last 5 generations or so. I grew up in a time where I used to watch black men march with signs saying that I am a man, and I'm looking at what's the thing that we can really empower ourselves with as a collective is the use of social media and information transfer.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So with that said, you brothers have a good day, and thanks for allowing me to
Happy birthday.
Talk on this platform.
Happy birthday, brother. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. Take care.
Dr. Kevin Harris, one of my dear friends, someone that actually works on the show with me. We have to move on. We don't have that much time left. We have to move on. Okay. But just before we move on, my brother, as far as Donald Trump taking the credit for his talking points, I've lowered the unemployment rate for African Americans. I'm like, seriously? That's why it's important to study history, because we forget things. This is just a year and a half, 2 years ago, as that brother just said, when we saw multiple months of growth with respect to the economy up under Obama. You know, so we just have to make certain that we pay attention to that and what Trump is doing, the impeachment process, the courting of the black vote, and see how that all turns out. Now, my brother Aleem, during the introduction, we had a very, I guess you can call it a controversial question, something that a lot of my brothers and sisters always ask, something we should talk about. People always yes or no in the black community. We want everyone to call in and answer this question, but I'm going to ask you first, okay? Bottom line, did President Barack Obama do enough for black people? What say you?
Okay. Well, let me be the first to say President Obama is my live living hero.
Yes, sir.
You know, and so to ask that question, mine's going to be yes. But to ask that question directly,
yes,
did he do enough for black people? Well, you have to really open your eyes and really look at, did President Obama run on, I'm going to do this for black people? No, he didn't run on these type of things. He ran on what he was going to do for American people, which includes black people.
Okay, I get that, but did he do enough just specifically for black people? No matter what he ran on.
That's an unfair question. It really is an unfair question.
I agree.
I mean, because when you pointed out, black people, the unemployment rate for blacks went down. Education of blacks far as graduating from schools.
Exactly.
It went up.
It went up.
They have something called the stimulus package. I remember, dude, did you get your stimulus package?
Exactly.
He gave folks just here's the money. Healthcare. It became affordable where people could actually have health care. There's so many things.
Call in on your Obama phone.
Yeah.
And I dare you to say no.
Your Obama phone. We call it that, but it's really not that, y'all. That's been around since the 70s. But anyway, it's an unfair question. We're going to have many answers, many different answers.
I got it. I got it. Yeah, keep talking, though. We're going to have many answers.
Okay, well, I'm just saying. Again, it's an unfair question, and we're going to have many different opinions about it. And it's easy to point out what he did for black people, but it is going to include American people, all people. Okay. That's who he stood for.
Before we take this next call, if someone was to pose the question to me before I take the next call, yes. The reason why I say he did enough, considering the political climate, considering the essence of politics in America on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., I mean, there was only so much he can do. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. But just out of respect for fairness and being rational, I would say yes, because check this out. As a community, we have everything that we need to present solutions. Okay, as a black community, without the assistance of Washington D.C., we'll expand on that a little bit later. But let's take this call real quick, and we'll talk about it after the call.
My headphones.
Go ahead, caller. Thank you for calling in. What'd it do?
Yeah. Hey, my name is Norman, and I'm calling to comment on did President Obama do enough for black folks? And the answer is yes. And here's the simple reason why, is that our self-image, the image of him being there,
talk, brother,
man in the White House,
talk, brother,
with a beautiful black family, no corruption, right? That image, the images on the media are always negative about us. This gave us the opportunity. Every day we saw him. Every day we saw Michelle. Every day we saw the kids. And that in itself put us sober. My son, you, me, and folks our age always had the question, can a black man be president?
Talk to me, brother.
Guess what?
Put it out there.
My son, that's not even part of his mentality. The only president he ever knew was black. And all the ones after him, he sees are fools. So it raises our mindset and puts us in the right image of ourselves, because we're under attack. You don't hear anything positive about us on any of the immediate stuff. And that is why it's just important. He didn't have to do anything but be there, as far as I'm concerned. But he did do a lot of good things. Healthcare is a big thing, and it helped everybody. So that's the key. I would want to make one other comment.
Please.
My concern about Trump and him being impeached and him getting reelected. First of all, him being impeached, the House will impeach him, the Senate won't approve it.
Right.
If they did, here's my concern. If they did, we got Mike Pence right behind him.
Have mercy.
And Pence,
have mercy.
Pence is, as I'll use it, is a real snake in the grass.
There's a snake in the grass.
And this is the unfortunate thing, why I think Trump will survive and possibly get reelected. And it's simply this. Donald Trump is the Tiger Woods of media. Okay? Donald Trump is selling more newspapers. You see more analysts and everything every day.
Wow.
They got something to talk about every day. They are making money hand over fist with this man in office.
Yeah.
And they control what we think about, because they'll put on certain things, not put on certain things.
Media.
But they are going to shoot themselves. They're out there for a profit. And he's going to make more money for them because they got something every day. There's something to talk about with Donald Trump. And not every minute. He's tweeting. They got something constantly. I haven't seen so many.
It's a free commercial.
It's a free promotional, but they're making money hand over fist, and that's kind of my concern.
Right.
On that.
My brother.
I will leave it at that. I just want to tell you, I want to say happy birthday to Professor Kevin Harris. I know him also. Good friend.
Yes.
And he's done a lot of good things for our community.
Before I let you go, brother, you made one of the most factual just statements regarding has President Obama done enough? Imagery has always been used as psychological warfare in this country, whether it be blackface, whether it be turning on the television and seeing nothing but black images of brothers and sisters and etc. The stereotypes that went into people like Warren Moon had to go to Canada to play football, okay, etc. Imagery is a tool of war. So since President Obama had that beautiful melanated family in the White House, the imagery of that alone was a resurrection for the hope of what a young black person could possibly do in the United States. Do you have anything to say before I go? Because we have a lot of time. Because we don't have a lot of time.
I understand. Just say what you were saying. I'll just jump on it. Yes, very much true. In what you're saying is imagery, and we'll get into that because the media controls that, and that is controlling your thinking. So let's just get in that. I want to thank the caller.
Thank you, brother, for calling in. Yes. Thank you so much.
I enjoy your show. Thank you.
All right. Very good.
Thank you, my brother.
Yes.
Before we move on to that, I mean, every time I hear Donald Trump taking credit for things that Obama has done, it just is very discomforting, okay? Because it's not true. Now, another brother who's like an award-winning author, fantastic brother, Ta-Nehisi Coates, intelligent brother. He writes a lot of books. He's an author. He's on television a lot. He's always on one of our favorite sisters, Joy Reid. He's always on her show.
Okay.
But he broke it down. I mean, this is a good brother, award-winning author. Mr. Coates broke it all the way down regarding who should get the credit for the black unemployment rate decreasing. Because, actually, let me just start it's President Obama, okay?
Right.
Go ahead, Mr. Coates. Break it down for Melanated Politics.
President Trump has been eager to take credit for, along with a surging stock market and a record low African-American unemployment rate.
It was just reported African-American unemployment is at its lowest level in history. I'm very proud of that.
The jobless rate among blacks slid to 6.8% in December, though part of that drop could be attributed to fewer people looking for jobs. And the black unemployment rate has consistently been about twice as high as the rate for whites. Still, the latest good news is part of a long-term trend that began under President Obama, a fact not lost on Parks.
I think that President Trump is sitting in a position where things have been set and already the roadmap was already there.
Parks says Trump does deserve credit for the record-setting stock market.
I have seen it definitely rise, so it's only fair to give him the credit for that.
But what about other promises Trump has made?
I don't see a whole lot. To me, he's made a lot of promises, and a lot of things have not been answered.
Do you feel like the president genuinely wants to help the black community?
That's a tough question for me to answer.
Parks is one of the 88% of black Ohioans who did not vote for Trump in 2016. And he doesn't appreciate some of his rhetoric when it comes to talking about black people, including recently calling some African countries shithole nations. Accountant Shirley Stevens shares Parks' views on Trump.
He has shown us that he wants to tear us apart as a nation.
Her tax preparing business was hit hard during the Great Recession, but has bounced back.
We regroup and we managed to grow.
But while she agrees Trump deserves credit for the skyrocketing stock market, Stevens doesn't think the president's policies, including the massive tax bill the White House touts as a middle-class tax cut, are going to help her.
I believe it's going to help the very rich.
Athena Joe.
There you have it, my brother, Mr. Coates, award-winning author. Fantastic brother. Great brother. So let's see what happens with all of that. Let's take a call. We have a call real fast. Welcome to Melanated. Thank you for calling in. Tell us how you really feel. What's up? Thank you for calling in.
Eric, I don't think you want me to do that. This is Deion Johnson.
Deion Johnson. Hold, I'm just saying.
I don't think you really want me to say how I really feel.
Say how you really feel.
I'm going to taper it down because I know I don't want them to bleep out your show.
For those that don't know, this is my sister, Deion Johnson, the host, intelligent sister of I'm Just Saying. That's on Morris Media on Friday. So whenever you get time, check out I'm Just Saying with Deion Johnson. I was honored to have her on my show a couple of times, and also on Toomer's show. But anyway, enough about your biography. Break it down like an improper fracture, Deion. What's up?
We're going to break it down. You had me on more than twice, my brother. You had me on enough to get the strength to do it, so let's tell it right. But anyway, you had me on more than twice. You carried it for a minute. Listen, you're asking a question, Eric, about President Obama. Did he do enough? And I was listening to that, and I was thinking to myself, I said, I got to call in. I got to make sure I let something be known. With what my still president, because I'm going to hold on to him forever for a moment until we get another president, because we don't have one now. We have something or something sitting in office. But what's going on? Obama did the best to me that he could do with the Senate and Congress and with the blockade he had.
Right.
But the one thing that he did do that will forever stand, one of the major things, is he made sure millions of people that did not have health coverage or health insurance were allowed affordable health care. And that saved a lot of lives. And also pre-existing, you could get treated because the ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Now, as far as when you compare him to 45,
yes.
The one thing that the brother Obama, if I were Obama, right now, it's sad to say this, but what came after him, he will forever be shined. And I think that's the way God wanted it to be. Because
well,
you get what I'm saying? When you go,
yes, ma'am.
Someone like this it's like, for instance, let's take Michael Jordan.
Yes.
And put me on the court after him.
That's a good one right there.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Deion, we love you. We love you. We love your comment.
Yes, guys, I'm going to let you guys
okay.
But that's the way I want you to look at it. But we're going to forever ask Obama to do enough because what he did do was show grace, tenacity, strength, courage, and he also made sure that we as a black people, black African Americans, shine.
Yes.
And so they're going to question it because they found nothing wrong.
Okay.
Bill Clinton got impeached. You know what I mean? They found nothing wrong. The brother did nothing wrong. And that they don't want that. Every black man that has done something great, let's think about it. They may find a way to make them look bad, and they can't do it with him.
Yes.
Well,
thank you so much.
So did he do enough? He did enough for us, because we can really hold our head up high, always can, but higher, and say thank you, Obama, because that's a hard-ass job.
Yes. Well, thank you, Deion, for those words. And
you keep shining, my brother. Clarence, all right now, get a baton.
All right, we want to thank Deion. And always, y'all remember to watch I'm Just Saying on Fridays. Yes. So
I truly do love you, brothers.
All right.
Saying, y'all have a good Sunday.
Okay.
All right.
Yes. All of us melanated people, we are all in it together. Because one thing that we all do have in common, we will be judged together as far as our generation. What did we do to advance our people economically, spiritually, in a lot of other ways? And we're going to continue to remain positive with respect to all that. Now, we have a few more minutes, but we would be remiss if we did not call out ourselves. Black on black violence, gang violence, black on black crime, that has to stop. Bottom line. I mean, it's two things. It's a disgrace and it's selficide. You have genocide and you have selficide. We owe it to our grandmothers, the melanated children that haven't been born yet. We owe it to the brothers who have, and the brothers and the sisters that have held our hands and is on that positive vibe with, I mean, especially in Los Angeles. The violence have to stop. So all the G's out there, this is a straight up passionate call. Let's do what we have to do to decrease and stop the killing and the black on black crime in our own community. It starts at home.
Well, and you're exactly right. And this subject here, wow, it's actually a show. And it's called accountability.
And we'll have that next week.
Okay, well, next time
we'll talk about accountability in the black community.
Really strictly talk
with
about
us black man. Go ahead, brother.
Black accountability, because you're absolutely right. Just from the last time that I was on your show, and got rave reviews about your show on that one. That was really good. But I was asked a question about when are we going to more or less stand up and look at us. So I have this saying now that we can talk about next time, and it is called that there is a lot of us looking at us and want to hold us accountable for us. You understand?
Yes.
It's a lot of black people are wondering. And here's one of the things. We will stand up and gather in the streets and protest hard whenever a police kill or shoot to a black person. A black man, black woman.
But what happens?
We will stand up. We will come out. We will make phone calls. We're willing to go to jail. When it happens in our own community, because in our own community, we hear things. Little boy in the backyard, spider suit. And it's close to Halloween. He got a Spider-Man outfit on. He's 4, 5, whatever. And drive-by shooting, shoots the little boy. No one in the community, no protesting. They won't even give the guy up. Why? You know, what is it? Snitches get stitches, and I ain't going to be a snitch. But we have to be accountable for what we do to us.
Yes, we have
and
to
that's
be.
Another
yeah, we have to be accountable for our behavior.
That's another topic.
As black men. So next week we're going to talk about black accountability, and I'm also going to beg the question. Okay, before I beg the question, we don't exonerate anyone that has tortured and stripped black people of our dignity one day in our history in this country. However, are we our own worst enemy? We'll talk about that next week.
Okay.
We'll talk about that next week.
Okay. Okay. Yes.
Any parting thoughts about anything before we go, my brother Ali?
Great show. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me again. And as you are saying, we'll be back, and we'll tackle these issues about us, black folks. Let's look at us. Let's talk about us. This is something that we can really get into. And the whole thing about this show that I'm loving it, that you have a platform, is because the one thing about it, we can find out, we know the problems and what is being done to us. It is time that we give out solutions to how to continue to move forward. And we're going to do it with this platform and many other media platforms. The media is the power.
Yes.
The media is the power. And I am so thankful for Morris Media Studio, because this is power.
Shout out to everyone that's been down with Morris Media day one. Shout out to everyone that's been down with Melanated Politics since day one. Shout out to all my folks at the office. Holler at me, y'all. I'll see y'all in a minute. So, look, y'all, Seagulls fly with seagulls, and eagles fly with eagles. House kittens are not allowed to hang around with no lions. Let's unite as a people. Melanated, the essence of color. Politics, war without bloodshed. Thank you so much for tuning in. But one last thing before I go. Tatiana Jefferson, her dad, Marquise Jefferson, had a heart attack on Friday and unfortunately passed along yesterday. Tatiana Jefferson, our dear sister that was shot through the window in Fort Worth, Texas, her dad died. Rest in peace. My brother, Marquise A. Jefferson, died at 59 at a heart attack. Rest in peace. Peace and blessings to your family and your friends. Hey.
All right.
We're out of here like last year. Thank you. Peace.
Peace.